Maybe a city councilman taking bribes on the side, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Daddy Justice has been telling them for years there are corrupt judges on the bench and there's nobody to tell about it. There is no protection for citizens once they enter the courtroom in Pennsylvania. Well, finally, it's proven 6,000 times in Luzerne County. And as a byproduct, inside here today, they're having an interbranch commission on juvenile justice to look into the whole ball of wax and find out what they got to do to protect citizens from judges. Daddy Justice, come on, let's check it out. Let's see if we can get in here.
And it's across the board. It's not just juvenile court. Okay. It's civil, it's criminal adult, it's custody, it's the whole 9 yards. Well, a lot of judges hate to be reversed. Okay? So, and I think that was part of the problem in some people not filing appeals, because they get a lot of, indirect pressure in counties. Not in my county, never. But I think but judges hate to be reversed. So they hate to be appealed. And I think until that needs to be a pervasive one so they make better decisions. Or even if they do get appealed, they shouldn't make the lawyer feel bad about filing that appeal, because it's basically what their client wants. It's not the lawyer's decision whether they appeal or not. Basically, it's ultimately controlled by whoever we're working for, whoever hired us, whoever I'm representing in that court setting. And that's the way the system is supposed to work, and it shouldn't be just because some judge might feel bad that he gets reversed. If he's wrong, he's wrong. If he's right, fine. And that's the way the system's intended to work. It's just a very small group that I really think put on a robe and enjoy the power that they have over people.
Judge-itis, I've heard it referred to?
Black robitis.
Black robitis. Judge-itis must be an old term.
That's mine. I call it black robitis. Sometimes common sense leaves the window for some reason when they put the black robe on.
I want to thank you all very much for being here today and offering your insights and guidance and judgment on these very complex.
Ben Vonderheide, and I very great to meet you. Okay. I've heard a rumor that you're an honest, good judge.
Well, sometimes rumors are true.
Well, we like that.
What can I do for you?
I have a couple of questions for you. The public in Luzerne County and other places certainly have, at this point in time, reason to feel left down by the court system and all the avenues of redress that they pursued. Do you have anything you could say that would explain to them, express to them your understanding and the fact that this board appreciates that and empathizes with their position?
Well, I tried to express that yesterday. I don't know if you were here at the end of the day when Ms. Lavery testified, okay, but at the end of her testimony, she spoke on behalf of the original victims, and very eloquently so, for about an hour. And I responded at the end of that by saying that we appreciated her being here, that we had wanted to hear from the original victims, that there are really three categories of victims. There's the juvenile victims that we've heard from. There's what we refer to as the original victims, which she spoke for. But then there's a whole third category of victims, and that is that any time that there's an attack on the rule of law, that's an attack on democracy. And an attack on democracy is an attack on all citizens. So in a sense, we're all victims of what went on in Luzerne County, even if we don't live there. Now, having said that, all three different categories of victims have been harmed in different ways. We don't have the power as a commission to right any of those harms, except to the extent that we can take their private hurt and transform that into some public good by making recommendations to the Supreme Court, the legislature, and the governor. Now, that is small comfort, I know, to the first two categories of victims. But as far as the commission's concerned, that's all the legislative authority we have. Does that answer your question?
Yes. A follow-up question is, can you tell us now, you know, you're a smart enough man, you know that what a lot of these people are thinking, they're saying, if this would have happened to the Judicial Conduct Board's children or a judge's child, it would have been different. How do you answer that in combination with saying, why should they have confidence and faith in this board any more than they've lost due to the failure of the other elements of government they've dealt with?
Well, I don't know that I would necessarily say that their reaction is illogical. All I can say is, if they were did not receive the treatment that we expect of our judicial system. And if they are distrustful and angry and resentful, I can't say that I blame them. All I can say is we're not going to do that, and we're going to do the very best we can to make things better in the future. And they'll just have to wait and judge what we do at the end rather than anticipate at the beginning.
I understand that. Let me ask you another question now. This is great. This is focusing on the Luzerne County case, which was so large, probably the worst case of judicial corruption in the history of America. There are many people throughout Pennsylvania who have had individual cases in areas that aren't being looked at now. And they might feel that finally this is being looked at, but they're going to be ignored. Can you tell me, would you be able to offer them some idea that their issues will be addressed, not necessarily their personal issues, but the things that happen to them won't occur to people down the road, even if it's not Luzerne County?
Our legislative mandate is to address the juvenile justice scandal in Luzerne County. So there are many aspects to alleged corruption in Luzerne County: teacher, housing authority, court administration, county government. That's not anything within the scope of what we're directed to do. We're focusing only on the juvenile justice system. So to the extent that people have other complaints about the judiciary or district attorneys or defense or custody, that's not within the scope of what we're directed to do by the legislature.
Is it possible that the impact of your decisions could at least bring more integrity into those proceedings? Is that a possibility you would like to hold out?
Well, I'd like to think that we're always trying to make the process as full of integrity and honesty as is possible. Sure.
And then the question I think that's on everybody's mind that's out there right now, if you're going through this right now and you're in Pennsylvania and you're a lawyer and your whole town is allowing a judge to operate in a wrongful manner, and no one will listen to you, where can you go? If you're there today, where could you go to get redress?
Well, I don't know when you got here this morning. Did you hear the president of the Pennsylvania Bar Association speak this morning?
No, I was at Donuts for Dads with my son at school, which I'm sorry takes precedent.
No, and rightly so.
It took me a long time to get it to Donuts for Dads, so I'm not missing that. I appreciate these efforts, but my son comes first.
That's the way it ought to be. I'm not disagreeing with. I just didn't want to repeat what you'd already heard from Clifford Haynes. But basically, he talked about that problem. And there may not be a very good place to go, frankly, and that's one of the things that we want to look at. The Pennsylvania Bar Association, he testified, is involved in various studies that may be able to address those kind of things. Of course, there's the Judicial Conduct Board, but we hope to be able to address those kind of things. But again, that's what we're looking at. If you're asking for an answer right now, I don't have an answer.
And the final question is regarding media. There is some contention amongst myself and others that the reason why these things are able to fester so long and become so awful, so horrific, is that there's no transparency. And I've heard some talk about that. There's an issue that you're looking at.
Yeah, we are. Now, bear in mind that some juvenile proceedings are open. Almost all serious juvenile cases are open. Anybody can go, not just the media. People can walk in off the street and see them. They're open proceedings. So it's not entirely accurate to say that all juvenile delinquency proceedings are closed. That's not entirely accurate. So the question is, how open should they be? And there it's a balancing test where we're concerned about, we want to assure that judges are held accountable, but are we willing to sacrifice the privacy and best interests of children to have that occur? And where is that balancing point? And I think that's the struggle that, as a commission, we're working on and hearing from other witnesses that have testified.
Well, it may be the devil, or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
If you're asking for an answer right now, I don't have an answer. There may not be a very good place to go, frankly, and that's one of the things that we want to look at. Any time that there's an attack on the rule of law, that's an attack on democracy. And an attack on democracy is an attack on all citizens. So in a sense, we're all victims of what went on in Luzerne County, even if we don't live there.